Let's
All
get
right,
into the
cool. What we
next one.
got?
All right, we're gonna do some hanging knee raise, and so I'm gonna
Oh
add a nuance to this
yeah.
one. So here it is. I'm gonna knee raise, right? But I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stick
Boom.
her out and bring it back in.
Ooh yeah. That look like what Annalise. That looked like the thing Ava came up with. I sent you that video.
Oh
My little
yeah.
6-year-old coming up with exercise videos.
Future
So we lifted
entrepreneurs
our
of
knee
the so yep,
here,
coming up,
here, here.
bringing it
Yeah.
out. Boom. All right.
One question. Since we did this in our core in our abs video, if you haven't seen it, do better. Go check it out. Get some of
Come on
these.
now. Come on now.
Nah, but since
Right.
you showed me this exercise and the abs video, I've been incorporating this into my regimen, right? But one question I do have: am I hanging completely, or am I here? Am I hanging,
Hang,
or am I here?
hang completely. Hang completely. I mean, you don't want to really
So I
unnecessarily
want to
engage your
your arms.
your arms. Yeah, just
Uh-huh.
hang.
So we're just gonna hang.
Just
All
hang.
right, cool,
Just hang.
cool. All right, yes, sir.
All right.
For our beginners, this is gonna be a hard one for beginners, man. Try to do 5 of them. For intermediate folks, go ahead and try to hit the 10 to 15. And if we're advanced folks, just do until exhaustion.
And you know what? The leg extension is probably the harder, the harder, uh, you know, I guess movement. You know what I mean for folks. So if
Yeah.
so, you can just raise it up, bring it back down.
Just raise it up as much as you can, or do what you can do. Do what you can do. Last bit of information about the dozens, right? So this makes me angry. 1939, I think it is. The first academic study, of course, first academic study of the dozens was done by a dude named John Pollard. No, Dollard,
Oh,
like dollars, but with a D on
yep.
the end. Dollard. I think that's his name, John Dollard. A white psychologist. And he came up with this frustration hyphen aggression theory. It should be a link right here.
All
Where
right.
basically he says that the dozens is it comes out of slavery because Black people were angry, and it gave us a sense of it helps us voice our frustration and
Outlet.
you
An
know
outlet.
and an outlet, right? What I don't like about it is, one, don't talk about our struggle. You help create it. That's for one. But for two, don't, or you could talk about a struggle, but don't try to talk about it like the most intelligent person in the room, right, man? But two, what I
They
don't
would
like about
know.
it
They
is,
would know.
yeah,
They would know.
what I don't like about it is it's called the frustration aggression theory. And what he's leading to show is that aggression happens because of frustration. So what he had said, by focusing on us, what he is essentially doing is saying, this is why Black people are so aggressive. This is why they're so
Ooh,
angry and violent. They're
ooh,
frustrated, then they get aggressive, then they get violent. Ooh, you know what I mean? Rather than saying, let's start from the beginning of why they're frustrated in the first place. You feel me? That's what the study
yeah.
should be on. What was the study should be? What is wrong with this people that they would feel it necessary and okay to subjugate another people? That's what we really
Yeah.
should be focused on.
Where did it come from? All right. Let's go to
Right.
the source. Let's go to the source. All right. So look, man. Like now that we're talking about devaluing, right? I want to move on to another piece of another behavioral tactic that you see, and it's kind of this one is, I guess, somewhat subdued, right? This is not something that's really out there now. Not a lot of folks are aware of, and this will probably rock you, right? So like, and this is another one of those tidbits from DeGruy, man, that just kind of blew my mind when I heard it because, man, I do it. You know what I mean? Like I do it. Okay, as conscious as I think I am, I do this, right? So she talked of a situation where I guess she was talking to a white female and they were, comparing notes on their children. And she's basically saying, the white woman was complimenting her saying, oh, your son is, he's doing pretty well. I mean, wow, he's doing so well. Like he's very smart. He's doing this, he's doing that. Okay. And then the first response from the black mother would be, oh, yeah, he get on my nerves. Oh my God, you should see his room. Oh, like man, yeah, I hear you, but but this, but that, and basically just putting Buddy down and not necessarily just accepting the comment for what it's worth, right? Just
Okay.
accepting the fact that her son is actually,
It's a shit. Yeah.
worth something, right? And what blew my mind, I was like, yeah, I do that myself. They said, and your daughter's very beautiful. your daughter's really doing well. It's like, yeah, man, but you should see her room. Oh my gosh, you can't keep this. So as I'm listening to this, I'm trying to, I'm kind of relating it to my behavior and where that came from. Okay, and this will blow your mind is back in those days, we didn't want it. Like how it was like a basically a crime to read. So if
Uh,
you had a kid of any value, okay, if you had or any family member of any value, you would try to devalue them so they wouldn't sell them. So they wouldn't sell them off because family was very important to those folks. No, so they would use this tactic of devaluing their family members to be able to keep them subdued, to keep them, under wraps, to keep them, to keep them with them. So it was one of those things where like that's just trauma passed down through the blood to us, and we don't know
uh,
why we do that. Like we really don't know why. We don't know why we do that. Like why can't we just take a compliment for what it's worth? Why do we have
right.
to add that negative aspect to it? You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
comes from that. They were afraid. They were afraid that they were going to sell because once these folks found out the worth of this child, they would sell them off.
Right.
And
Right. So it
so
was a
that's
defense mechanism. It was a defense mechanism.
exactly that.
It was
Exactly that.
them. It was protecting their children so that they could keep their families together any way that they could. But at the same time, what happens when that child hears you saying that about them? What happens?
Right.
Because even way back then, still now, but way back then, children were to be heard and used, but not. I mean, they would be seen and used, but not heard. Right. So you couldn't
Right.
talk. You couldn't voice your opinion to your to your parent or your adult, because you probably get backhanded. That's what we're about to talk about next. But yeah,
Ah,
so the whole devaluing of a child in front of a child because you're trying to protect them and they don't even know that that's what you're doing. They just think you really think that they're dumb or dim with it or ain't shit. That's powerful,
right.
man.
And
I find myself doing that. I find myself doing that too. But even deeper, I find myself doing that with myself. Right? I
ah,
consider it me being humble. Somebody says,
ah,
"Oh, somebody might be like, "Oh man, you can put on some muscle, man." I'm like,
yeah.
or "Hey man, that was a nah." If they say it was a great episode, I'm always like, "Yeah, we did shit." David J.
Right.
Lucas,
Boy, what you got?
QB.
What you got in your hair? What you got? Boy, what you got in your hair? What kind of chemical you put in your hair?
Oh yeah, yeah. But
You know
it's
what I mean?
nothing. It's just juices and berries. I've
Like
been growing it
juices
since
and
birth.
berries. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And he's like,
it's
man,
my
ain't nothing but
natural
ultra
hair.
perm, right?
That
And
ain't
we
nothing
just
but ultra-perm. It
haters
doesn't.
by nation, right? Haters by nature,
Yeah,
man. And
yeah,
and again, man, that's something. I mean, look, I didn't really convey that well, right? But I mean, you get the gist, right? That's
oh
just
yeah,
something inherently that we do, and we don't really know why. And it was because of that. And so, like, man, they did a laboratory study on a rat. Basically, they exposed the rat to a certain type of stimulus, right? And every time
right.
the rat did something, it would get shocked. Okay, so then that rat reproduced and had children. Oh, I'm sorry, children had offspring. Okay, so what they found is that the offspring from that rat actually respond to the same type of stimulus without even being subjected to the experiment.
Right.
So those type of things are actually passed down through the blood. Like so, me, I'm a very frugal individual, homie. Like I really don't like spending money. Not one of my favorite pastimes. And then my dad was in my life, like in the house till about till I was 7 years old. So I didn't really understand financial literacy at all. But it was just something that I guess was just passed down from him to me,
Right.
without really seeing, how he operates and how he deals with money. And it's the same thing with my daughter. My daughter's super frugal, right? Watching her operate is insane. Like I'm like, oh my, she's like Scrooge McDuck. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, man, and I didn't necessarily, teach her
Teach her
that.
that.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't tell her, yo, you need to save up all your dough, don't spend it on frivolous things. I kind of just, I just was who I was. You know what I mean? And again, that's not something that necessary that I taught her. So I think that is true that these things are just passed down through the
And
blood,
pass down.
man, without
Yeah. Yeah.
not necessarily
I feel
learned
you
to
on
do.
that. I feel you on that. And what I love about what Dr. DeGruy does or has done is she's given evidence. She's given scientific evidence that has used the scientific method of proof, right? So
Oh
so
yeah, yeah,
no longer gone are the days where people outside of our culture and outside of our history can tell us no, that is inaccurate. They can't do that no more because that study is in Joy DeGruy's work. Like, she's the one who put us onto that. You know what I mean? So if you could take rats and study, I don't know, birth control or any other medicine on it, you know, or study any other kind of theory on rats to prove some kind of European theory, there's no way that you can say that you can't prove this PTSS.
I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing that's under 100. Good